So today, David Birchmier is joining us. He's the Director of Workforce Management Strategy and Go-to-Market, and he will be sharing all of the great and exciting things that are to come. But before we do that, we want to start off, as we always do, with our Slido survey. And there you can scan the QR code, or you can go to slido.com and enter that code. And that will be on every screen. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to our first question, which is, how familiar are you with Zendesk's Workforce Engagement Management, WEM tools, including QA and Workforce Management? We've fully adopted them and want to optimize. We're actively using one or both. I've explored them a bit, but haven't implemented. Looks like we're all over the place so far. Nobody yet who's brand new. That's good. So everybody's at least aware of what WEM is. And it does look like the majority of those who have responded have explored a bit, but haven't implemented. It's kind of like watching a race. Let's see which line is going to get there fastest. All right. We've got active use and a bit of exploration seem to be the guiding experience levels. And we'll go ahead and move on to our next question, which is, what outcome are you most hoping to get from this session today? Understanding WEM capabilities and best practices, learning how to connect QA and WFM for better insights, understanding WEM capabilities, they just jumped around, and best practices, I already read that one, hearing how other organizations are using WEM, or discovering new features or upcoming roadmap items. Capabilities and best practices. Definitely a great place to land, with 10 participants answering that question so far. About half of you are saying that's what you'd like to get out of this session. And definitely we will address the other topics, but we'll make sure to spend time, or I say we, David will make sure to spend time on the capabilities and best practices. All right, go ahead and move on to our last question, which is, which area would you like the presenter to focus on most? Building and scaling QA programs, improving forecasting and scheduling in WFM, integrating WEM with existing Zendesk workflows, or measuring impact and performance outcomes? Forecasting and scheduling, definitely the winner in our area as well. Meg and I work at the same company, Together Work, which is a large organization that has about 20 different product lines that are all in the same Zendesk instance. And we have our highest volume, 5, I believe, product lines just starting off with WFM. And that forecasting and scheduling is where they're seeing the most learning curve. We did use TimeShift 5 years ago before they were acquired. And so there's a little bit of transition there, but most of those leaders weren't involved at that time. So it's kind of new to them in general. So looking forward to learning more about that. And thank you everybody for participating in our survey. We did want to start off by just defining what is WEM. Sounds like everybody here is pretty familiar, but Workforce Engagement Management is a set of tools designed to optimize support operations, increase service efficiency, boost performance, and improve the agent experience, saving the whole organization time and money. Sounds like a match.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tiffany. Really nice to see everyone. So a little about my background. David Birchmier. I joined Zendesk a little over 2 years ago now, and I came to Zendesk as part of the acquisition of TimeShift. So TimeShift is now Zendesk Workforce Management, for those of you who aren't familiar. And at TimeShift, I was the CEO and the founder. And shortly after Zendesk acquired a company called TimeShift, my company, we acquired another company called Klaus, which is our quality assurance product, or Zendesk QA today. And so today, my role at Zendesk is leading our specialist teams over both quality assurance and workforce management. And so that's exactly what I'm here to talk to all of you about today. So I thought I'm going to start out with 4 simple things that I think bring a lot of value. And I think this will be like a really good jumping off point for the discussion. And I think it actually kind of lines up with what people are wanting to learn about today as well. And then if you know me, I'm very conversational. I'd rather focus on what's most important to you. And so we'll leave lots of time to talk about anything you want to know about Zendesk WFM or QA products and how you can get the most out of them. So that said, let's jump into this. And I'll just bring up my screen here. All right, so I promised 4 simple things that bring a lot of value. And I put these in order of ease of implementation and getting value really quickly out of it. Moving up to the more complex functionality where you can get lots of value, but it takes a little bit more time, right? So trying to be really practical about this. And these are going to be spread across both our workforce management and our QA products. So I'll kind of call those out as I go through it. So the first one is, you can think of actually these first 2, these kind of the basics that we need to get in place as part of managing our team operations. So number 1 is knowing where our agents spend their time and how productive they are during that time, both inside and outside of Zendesk, because of course, folks go back and forth between different tools, right? We need to understand the full picture. And this is pretty simple and pretty easy to implement, but it becomes critical later on when you go to plan and forecast and schedule, because now the inputs that you're working with are super accurate. So that's why this one's first. Easy, high ROI, and you need it later. The next one is finding opportunities to improve quality. And we're starting with the simple option, which is using the out-of-the-box auto QA categories, as well as building out your own quality categories. The third one, this is where we're moving into some of the things that are a little more complex to set up, but add a lot of value when you do, which is using AI to identify and review your tickets. And the way I like to think about this is, if you had a team of people that you could just say, read 10,000 Zendesk tickets, what would you ask them? And I'll show you a tangible example of this when we get into it a little bit later. And then the fourth one, and this was actually the top category of like, what do you want to learn more about, is how do we plan better with forecasting and scheduling? So I'm going to run through these 4 things pretty quickly, just so we can spend more time on your questions, and then you can kind of point me to where you want to dig into a little bit more. All right, so let's get into it. Thing number 1, understanding agents' time and productivity inside and outside of Zendesk. So this view is showing you a timeline of an agent. In this case, I'm looking at Anesh. And this is showing you a picture of where Anesh spends her time. And so we can see time on an individual messaging ticket. And you can define these categories yourself, by the way. We can see time on voice calls. We can see time spent on breaks, time spent on tier 1 tickets, so something we've custom defined here. And you add all of that up, and that's how you get to the 8 hours of a day that Anesh is working within the organization. And how do we break down that 8 hours? We can even see things like unproductive time, where we're not working on tickets. We're not on a break or a lunch. We're not working in a back office system. If you go to the next level of that, you can start to understand not just where was time spent, which is our top bar up here, but productivity. Where were actions being taken? So the first level is to know, where do we allocate our agents' time? The second level is to understand during that time, how productive were they? And I've intentionally started out with kind of a very micro zoomed in view of this, just to help you understand how everything's captured. But you can zoom out on this, and you can get your executive level reporting as well to compare, contrast, and understand performance across different aspects of your organization. And so these little blue bars down here, they represent where agents are actually taking action. And so we can see, for example, here we spent 17 minutes on a voice call, and it looks like we left an update at the end of that, things like that. So that's level 1. Now we're going to zoom out, and we're going to take all of that data that I just showed you on a very granular basis of where time was being spent, and we're going to break it down into some critical support operation metrics. So this is a list of agents, as I can see on the left-hand side. And then I see things like my average handle time, how many comments are being left, how many points are being solved per paid hour. Really nice normalized metric, by the way, to understand productivity. Total amount of time for that agent within the given range. So here I'm looking at just today. So for the most part, it's going to be about 8 hours max. And then my utilization rate. We also have occupancy as well. You can put that in there too. If I pick any agent and expand that agent, I can get a breakdown of where their time is actually being spent. Let me see if I've got one that's got more. So here we can see how much time is on lunch, tier 2, messaging, voice, etc. And if I want, I can drill in a level further, and I can even understand the individual ticket numbers. Now, if I want to zoom out further, that was by agent. Now I want to zoom out and I want to look by team. I can do that as well. And this could also be by BPO. So you could compare your BPOs to each other if you have multiple BPOs or outsourced vendors that you work with, or you could compare your BPOs to your in-house teams. So for the sake of simplicity, I've kept exactly the same metrics, but I've changed the way that we've grouped. And now we're looking at the same metrics by team. And so we could, for example, say Matt's team versus Nicholas's team and look at the average handle time discrepancy, or HLX, our outsourced BPO versus an internal team with Greg. We can do the same drill in, but this time when we drill in, we see agents. And we drill in again, we see where agents spend their time. And all of this is configurable. I've just set a few up for you to kind of give you some ideas of how to think about it. Let's zoom out even further. So I looked by agent first, then I went by team. Now I want to look at this through the lens of what's my cost across my entire business for the types of work that I have to support. And so this view is a breakdown of all of the different types of work that I have to support. And these are customizable, but you can see, for example, how much time do we spend on billing related tickets? These are average handle times, sorry, versus tier 3. And then we can see the aggregate time as well. And this is just one day, but if I wanted to look for the entire month of October, I could understand that too. And I could see, 38 days of total human time spent against billing tickets. And last but not least, we can also break that down by time interval. So you can look by hour of the day, you can look by day of the week, you can look by week or month, however you want to break that down, and you can understand how do those metrics trend. So let's look by hour of the day here. And here I can see, for example, how my average handle time trends throughout the day. Starts out high, then it drops, then it rises again. And I can see how much different time is being spent in aggregate across all of my agents. Okay, the last thing I want to call out is everything I've shown you so far was inside of Zendesk tracking. In addition to that, you can also track agents' time spent outside of Zendesk. So you can start to understand, for example, if an agent needs to work in a back office tool and it's a web-based application, you can set up a task for that back office tool, and then you can map a URL to it. So you can basically say whenever an agent is inside of this specific website, I want to automatically track time against that activity. And then that time shows up in all those reports, just like I was showing you. It shows up in your activity bar, and now you have a complete picture of an agent's day. So this first thing that I showed you, this is inside of our workforce management product. And this is how you get a understanding of time and productivity by agent, by team, by time interval, by overall across your entire support organization. The next thing that I want to show you is quality. And I think about this very practically in terms of how workforce management and quality assurance go hand in hand as products, and thus why Gartner has created the workforce engagement management category. And it just comes down to one doesn't work without the other. So in other words, if my productivity is really good and I'm really, really efficient, but my quality suffers, then that doesn't work for the organization or for my customers. And on the other hand, if my quality is really good, but I'm really inefficient and the costs are really, really high, then I may not actually be able to service all of my customers efficiently enough, right? And they're not going to be happy because of that either. And so the two of these things very, very much go hand in hand for that reason. So when I think about QA and where to start, I always like to start by thinking about the out-of-the-box categories. These are our automatic QA categories that will score every single ticket that you have inside of Zendesk. And you can see these categories over here on the right-hand side and the automated scoring. In addition to that, you can change them if you disagree with the automated scoring, or you can add your own in and manually QA them. And that's level one. And you can implement that pretty quickly, pretty easily. It's pretty straightforward to do. Level two is starting to think about doing things in a more custom way. And this I like to think about not so much through an AI lens, but through the lens, just like as a mental model for how to use this functionality, through the lens of I have someone that's willing to read every single ticket that I have in Zendesk. What do I want to know? Which tickets do I want them to surface and bring to my attention? Or which tickets do I want them to rate and in what way, right? And so that's what our new AI functionality called custom prompt spotlights and custom prompt categories in QA allows you to do, is it allows you to ask a question like, hey, did this customer say they might want to leave? And then once that question has been asked, then you can do one of two things with it. You can make it a category, which means we're going to now score the tickets based upon the answer to that question, yes or no. Or you can make it into a spotlight, which is basically like a way to filter tickets. You can think of it like a Zendesk view if you're familiar with core terminology. So now I can filter down my tickets and I can see all of the tickets that met that criteria of the customer wanted to leave or part ways or whatever, right? And so this is very, very powerful because you can essentially, a lot of the SOPs and the processes that you've likely written internally for how you QA tickets, you can start to integrate AI with that and have it start doing some of that work. And most importantly, it can start to surface the problematic things that you need to look at. And what I mean by that is if you're getting 100,000 tickets a month, right? And today you might be manually QAing those tickets. You're likely, if you're doing it manually, you're going to get to 1 to 2 to 3% of those, right? You're going to get a very small sample size. And the problem is it might be the wrong tickets. You might have actually missed the ones that are really problematic that you need to look at. And so the big value that this can provide is to help you to find the ones you really need to look at. Read through 100,000 tickets, figure out where the problems are, and then we go look into those and we focus our energy there. The last thing I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to jump into Q&A and whatever you want to talk about today, is the last piece of the puzzle. So we started out with understanding productivity and where time was spent. We went into simple QA setup where we automatically score everything with out-of-the-box categories. Then we got a little more advanced and we started building out our own categories and our own spotlights to find the issues. And then as a last step, we say, okay, how are we going to plan better for the future, which is forecasting and scheduling. So how are we going to make sure that we allocate our human resources correctly? And so that's what this functionality does. And I know some of you already know what this is. Some of you are new, so I'll go through it for those of you that are new. For the ones that already know, sorry if this is a repeat. So forecasting and scheduling basically takes your historical contact volume from Zendesk, which you can separate, you can divide however you want to, and it builds a model to predict how many contacts you're going to get in the future based on what you got in the past. And I won't go super deep on this. There's like 8 different models. We auto-select the best one based on running a back test. If you disagree, you can change that. Once you've got your volume forecast, the next level is to convert that into humans. How many people do we actually need to handle this workload? And that's what the bottom chart does, is turn this into people. The final step is the scheduling piece. And this is where we take the forecast and we turn it into a schedule. So as close as we can get based on skills, availability of people, how many total people you have, et cetera, right? We turn that into a schedule and we try to get as close as we can to your forecast. So I was looking at the messaging one previously, so I'll bring that up here so we can see that. So those are the 4 simple things that I think can bring a lot of value. So I want to pause here now and jump into questions, and I'm going to let you all steer this conversation a little bit in terms of what's most valuable for you today. Hopefully this was helpful.
Well, thank you, David. Aaron submitted a question. I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you in case you can't see it in the chat. How does the extension tracking impact average handle time? So for example, an agent opens a ticket to start working on it in Agent Workspace, but then pops over to a different tab to research something.
Yeah.
If tab number 2 is tracked by the extension, does that stop the time tracking on tab 1 that has the Zendesk ticket open?
So Aaron, I can tell you're a true workforce manager. That's a very good question, very detailed. So it's a really good question, because what Aaron's getting at is how do we make sure that our average handle time is comprehensive? Because if it's not comprehensive, then we go to forecast and we wind up saying we need fewer people than we actually need because we misallocated how much time each ticket took. And so basically he's saying when the agent leaves the ticket and they go to some other tool, if the time should be allocated to that ticket because it's research associated with that ticket or it's work associated with that ticket, how do we make sure that that gets attributed? So there's 2 ways that you can do that. So number 1 is the default behavior. So out of the box behavior before you set up this extension tracker is the time keeps running against the ticket. And so we allocate that time against the ticket. Now, let's say we set up the extension tracker and we do track this other tool. Or rather, I'll give an option. We could choose to track the other tool, but if we know that tool is always associated against a ticket, we might opt not to, and we might use the extension tracker just to track other tools that are unrelated to ticket average handle time. That's one solution that customers use. The second one is they say, no, I want that additional detail, but I want to attribute it to my original ticket. And so the way that we see customers doing that is they set up the tracker to track the time. That means when they leave the ticket and they go to this other tool, it switches, you lose the handle time there. It tracks against the new tool. And then when they go to report and calculate their AHT, they actually add in, let's say it's Salesforce or some back office tool. They add in the total time in order to create their average handle time calculation. And this then results in getting the granularity of knowing, well, we spent 40 hours in this other back office system, and we spent 100 hours on tickets. So it's 140 total that we're using now to create our AHT calculation. Sorry, that was a long answer, but hopefully that answers your question, Aaron. That was a very good question.
Thanks, David. We have a little bit of a follow-up to that. So can you kind of share the differences between the quick tab extension, which we see is not supported or no longer maintained, versus what you're talking about for if an agent leaves Zendesk and goes to different supports or different tabs?
Yes, super good question as well. Okay, so quick tab was an old extension that kept agents in a single Zendesk tab instance. And we did this back in the day when our tracking wasn't as reliable across multiple windows. We have since improved that functionality. And so we no longer require that, essentially. So basically, that quick tab extension, it just did one thing. It was very simple. It said, if the agent has an instance of Zendesk open, then just if they click a link from some other tool or whatever, just pop open that tab in their original Google Chrome tab. Don't make a new one. That's what that did. So it was a pretty simple extension. This new thing that I was referring to, and I'm going to share the screen just to give context, a little bit more context rather on it, is this. And we just recently GA'd this functionality. So it's been in early access for quite a while, but we recently GA'd it. And I'll show you the Help Center article. This is what it's called. We can drop this in the chat after as well. This is for tracking time outside of Zendesk. And I think I can even pull open the extension so you can see it. It looks like this. And this one essentially just runs in the background of your agent's browser. And then it maps time spent against URLs to whatever task that you configure. So if you were to configure, I want my Gmail, in this case, it's mapped to ticket research troubleshooting. And so I can map it to whatever I want to. For privacy reasons, this only tracks if you set up a URL that you want mapped. It doesn't just track in general. You have to configure that. But once you do, you can capture that time. And you can determine the behavior, what happens with an unmapped URL. So for example, you could just ignore it entirely. That's what a lot of customers do. Some will set up a specific task. They'll call it like unmapped URL or something like that. Some will track it against untracked.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ashley has asked us another question. Can you select custom dates on your forecast? I noticed it's usually a 6-week/8-week review, but our company works in education. So July to August is fairly quiet to us, but September is our busiest time of year. If we forecasted based on the last 6 to 8 weeks, the numbers are not as helpful.
Yes, super good question. So let me show you, just because it's easier visually maybe to see this, the answer to that question. So you don't do it so much by selecting a specific time range as it is dictated by the algorithm. So for each work stream, some people think of this as a channel or a queue. We call it a work stream. Everybody likes to use their own terms, like to keep things complicated. But anyways, you pick your work stream. And then once you do that, over here on the right-hand side, you see this algorithm option pop up. And you see here that it's auto-magically selected the profit algorithm. Now, this one's actually a good example of it's going to use up to 2 years of data to build out your forecast, which means it is less reliant upon the last 8 weeks. It's actually primarily using the last 8 weeks for intraday patterns, because that does tend to be more accurate, less impacted by seasonality, but the actual volume is coming from much, much more data. Now, to contrast that, someone else might say, yeah, actually, if you look at 2 years of data, it's not going to be accurate at all because like things are changing every day. I need the most recent data. And so for them, we would say probably this 8-week average with momentum is the most accurate model. And this one is going to consume much less data when creating that forecast.
Awesome. Thank you. Aaron had another question. My biggest struggle with using the forecasting is that it only factors a single first response time. We have different response times based on ticket urgency. So for example, a normal ticket might be 1 business day, but urgent is 1 calendar hour. The workaround I've used, meaning Aaron, is to create separate work streams for each ticket's priority, but it's messy for scheduling. Any thoughts?
Yes. Okay, Aaron, you're sharp. So you've done it right because you created different work streams. It then allowed you to count that ticket every time it changed, because tickets can get passed around and it gets counted as a new piece of work every time it gets passed around. I will also just flag, if a ticket is solved and reopened, that will also count again, even without changing work stream. So that's another, possible way to do it if that, is your flow in Zendesk. But to your point of, I created all these work streams, maybe I got my forecast accurate, but now my schedule is really complicated. We actually built a solution for that. So you can forecast really granular, but you can schedule broadly. And that solution is called combined work streams. So I'm going to see if I've got this on in this account. Looks like I do. Yes, I do. Cool. So I think I can show this to you. Yes, I can. So combined work streams, they look like this little icon here. And you can basically go in and you can say, I want to take those 10 or 15 different work streams that I set up for forecasting, and I'm going to put them all together. And then once I put them all together, I'm going to schedule whatever that thing is. So like some customers will keep it really simple. They'll just call it online. It's like, I just schedule my agents for online and that's it. All the work streams are under it. And so their schedule is super simple. Your forecast remains detailed.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Great questions.
All right. Tom asked, are we able to create a report that gives us a staffing overview per team at a daily level? For example, Tuesday, the 21st, total scheduled staff, 100 total on time off tasks, 20 remaining staff due on shift 80.
Okay. Let me show you a few things here to answer this question. Actually, I'm going to start with the most real time of all of them. So the first part of this management is like, I made a schedule. I need to know if people came to work or not. And so this agent attendance feature does that very simply. So you can basically go in, you can look and see when were they scheduled, and then when do they log in. And then most importantly, you can go here to this little filters icon up here. And then you can choose things like late, or actually late right now. So here's everyone that I've scheduled that hasn't shown up for work yet. So very simple views, good for like a real-time analyst, maybe for your BPO team lead, maybe for somebody in-house that looks at this and then pings the BPO team lead to go look at it, right? Things like that. So that's level number one, very real time. And you can also see other things like they left early, right? So you can get that kind of granularity as well. Don't have anybody in this case. The next level is forecast versus actual. And by the way, if you're on a Mac and you hit Command K on your keyboard, it brings up this quick switcher feature, and then you can just type what you want. There's a lot of features in this product at this point, and so you can quickly jump around between different features. Command K Mac, Control K Windows will get you in and let you jump from feature to feature quickly. So back to your question. This is now showing us for the day in real time, what's my forecast, what's my actuals. And there's also a short-term forecast that gets adjusted based on actuals. So forecasted, actual volume, net. Next is my staffing. How many people are required? How many did I schedule? How many actually came to work? So this is based on real time being tracked. And then what is my delta based upon that? Same thing, average handle time, forecast versus actual. So what we thought it would be versus what it actually was by interval. And then you get down at the bottom, you can get some summary metrics. You can also look at this in a chart view. So I clicked this little thing here to get to the chart view. And now I can start to see forecast versus actual here as well. The last piece you asked about was time off. And I've got to jump to another report to show you that one. So I'm going to go into reports and I'm going to go into time off. And here is where I can see the number of hours by person, in this case, of approved time off. And it's broken down by planned and unplanned. So the surprise stuff that happened, like a no call, no show, or sick leave. And so here you can see the amount of unplanned time and you can see the amount of planned time. This is broken down by agent, but you can group it in different ways. Like you could flip this and you could say, just show me all my reasons. You look at this by hour of the day, even if you want to. You can break it down lots of different ways. Let me know if I missed any aspect to your question.
I have a quick follow-on question to that. Any plans to integrate the out-of-office functionality from Zendesk into workforce management? I was almost going to say time shift.
Yep. It's a good question, Tiffany. I think the answer is not right now. My current thinking in terms of like how this evolves over time is with Zendesk unified agent statuses and the routing engine and that actually being the controller of whether or not an agent is receiving work or not. And so that's why we haven't integrated it yet, is we think that is probably a more likely future. But that said, like, welcome your thoughts, welcome the group's feedback on that.
Awesome, that's helpful. Have to think about it a little bit more. We just found the out of office functionality and we're looking at deploying it in accordance with our workforce management strategy. So
Got it. Okay, good question.
Ashley asked, how do you handle time spent outside of browsers? So say desktop apps, or in our case, command line interface, or is it only able to track web traffic?
Yeah, so it's only able to track web traffic. It's got to be in a browser to track it. But I will tell you some clever hacks that we've seen other customers use. So we had one customer that wanted to track time on Zoom. And they realized that every time the agent went to Zoom, the little Zoom like landing page popped up and then Zoom opened up on the actual computer, right? And so what they did is they mapped that Zoom landing page URL to Zoom task. And then anytime that got opened, it would start tracking against Zoom. And then when the agent would go back to Zendesk, even if they didn't close that tab and they left it open, when they went back to Zendesk, it would stop. So that's how they got around it. It may not work for like a CLI thing because there may be no web related URL that you're going to first. So my recommendation on that is if that time is crucial to track, then you can still set up a general task and you can have the agent manually clock into it. I know whenever it's manual, it's not perfect, right? So I'm not going to try to sell you on that, but that's a potential solution if it's truly like there's no web-based way to capture it.
Awesome, thank you. Tom asked, when can we expect more granular call metrics per phone call per specialist? For example, call length is 10 minutes, total talk time 5, hold time 2 minutes, wrap up time 3 minutes.
Yeah, good question. So our current strategy for this is bringing workforce management metrics into Zendesk Explorer and the new real-time analytics feature. Before the end of this year, you're going to see the first workforce management metrics show up inside of Explorer and this real-time management functionality. And that is where we will also, yes, very exciting. Won't be everything yet. It's not everything. It's just a little bit, but it shows you we're actually doing it. That's why I call that out. And then that's essentially the first step. And that's where we'll bring the call metrics together as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Aaron asked, will we ever see a forecast versus actual report that is zoomed out? I'd love to be able to use it for larger scale staffing conversations, but looking at a single day is too zoomed in.
Yes, you will. And I don't remember timing, but I know this is on our roadmap to add day intervals, maybe even to add week intervals, to add more intervals to it. And it's totally fair ask. One thing I'm going to give you as an interim solution until we have that is you can get some of this reporting in a zoomed out way here in this feature. And so I'm actually going to show you how to do it. So if you set up a report, you go to attributes, you go to your time breakdown, you change hour to, I don't know, let's do week for the sake of showing a longer time span. And I'll do a bit of data here. Okay, and now I have my breakdown by week and all the same metrics. And you can customize which metrics show up in here. This isn't perfect solution because it doesn't have all the forecast versus actual metrics, but you do get some within this. So this is a temporary solution. The other workaround I can give you, which I know isn't fun, is you can export your forecast versus actual as a CSV. You can export it and you can aggregate it. You can create those longer intervals. And I'll check with the team for you as well on what the timing is to actually just add some more options in here to get the daily, weekly intervals.
Fantastic. Ashley gave a shout out to Tiffany's comment about out of office. They love it. So I guess, Tiffany, we need to get on that. Aaron also says, I'm getting ready to test unified agent status right now to replace the out of office app. Yeah. And he shared the link to that. So lots of conversations happening here about out of office. Nice.
Yeah, and I didn't say at the beginning, but all your roadmap requests as well. WFM and QA, that's also why I'm here. So let me know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have any roadmap, other information that you'd like to share with us or sneak peeks?
I can maybe talk about a few things that I'm excited about. So QA, we've got real-time QA. You'll see a very early version of that is already launched in early access, where we are starting to QA a ticket the second it comes in and then tag the ticket. And we tag it actually inside the Zendesk, which then lets you just create a view and like show all of your high risk compliance tickets that you need to see immediately. So that's like one thing I'm very excited about. Workforce management side, maybe a couple things. One is Chrome extension and this back office tracking that there's a bunch of discussion on earlier. One thing we've heard from customers is, wow, this is really cool, but I wish I had the same granularity that I had in Zendesk. I want if they're working on my back office system and it's like has IDs or some unique identifier with it, I want to split up all the time so I can see average handle time in the back office systems too. And so we've got some functionality coming next year that's going to let you do that. I think that piece is going to be pretty cool. And then one other thing we've got coming next year, which I think will make some folks on this call happy, is a metrics builder. So the other thing we've heard from customers is, I kind of disagree with this metric. I want to calculate it this way. Or you have all the base components I need, but I have to export and do a calculation in a spreadsheet. I wish I could do it myself. So we're going to have the ability to basically just run math on all of our base metrics and create your own metrics and then run those reports on them. So yes, I see Tiffany's excited about that. So me too.
Awesome. Let me see if we have any other questions that have popped in. I don't see anything. Feel free to comment in the chat if you have anything else you'd like to ask. David, I was curious if that extension tracking data can be part of the QA evaluation. So if a manager is looking at the total agent performance, is that integrated into it or a way to kind of evaluate that?
Super good question. It's a fair question. It's not integrated yet. I would love it to be. It needs to be, because you're totally right. You want to understand both aspects of performance and quality. And so we do have plans in the future to connect the dots between the two products. So from WFM, you'll be able to jump into any ticket as you're looking at performance and time, and jump in and look at it inside of QA. And the inverse, you'll be able to look at your performance metrics associated with that ticket that you're QAing for that agent inside of QA. So not there yet, but agree with you, it needs to be.
I have a quick question on QA as we look to implementing next year. We're thinking about how QA interacts with tickets where we use AI, and we don't use advanced AI SKU right now. We're using Stylo as an integration. So it's an agent assist tool, and that's a little bit of the feedback we've heard from our managers, is that they feel that it's difficult to QA tickets where there was some component of AI assistance on the ticket, especially around anticipating additional questions, or where we need to go into the system and look at their configuration or things like that are just additional pieces of information that are needed. How are you thinking about QA in light of the interaction between human and AI agents?
Yes, it's an excellent question, Tiffany. So I'll give you a little bit of a long answer, but I'll give you all the context to this. So number one, you can QA bots today with Zendesk QA's product. The key is the bot or the AI agent that you're using needs to be integrated into Zendesk in order to do that. But if you do, you can QA that bot, and you can look for things like bot repetition, not answering the customer's question. You can look for all those problematic sorts of things. Now, full transparency, the integration for this is best if you use our native AI agents product, and it's only going to get better. We just launched this a few months ago, and we're building a lot more functionality, but you technically can do it with any bot today. The second aspect to your question was essentially, how do I split out that bot versus human interaction? And so one of the cool things about our bot QA functionality is it breaks out, it finds all your bot QA tickets, your bot interacted tickets, which is actually an important thing as a first step. And then as a second level, it starts to split out what was the bot or the AI agent responsible for versus the human agent. So you can look at those separately, although you see them as a singular conversation so that you understand the customer journey and why they got there to that point. The last piece is just to understand that with the bot QA functionality, everything I showed you with custom prompts can apply to that as well. And it takes a little bit of work, right? It's not like you have to be a little precise with it, let's say, right? So that's why it takes some work. It's natural language, so it's not technical, but you got to be precise. But you can start looking for the tickets that you suspect there might be issues on. You might have seen one anecdotally and you're like, boy, I need to find out how many times this is happening. And you can then get into your Zendesk QA, you can write a prompt, and you can find all the tickets where this is happening. And then that's step one. And if you think, okay, that's valuable, I actually want to score this from now on, then you can turn it into a category and you can start scoring it. And so now you're actually rating your bots against your human agents as well. So there's a lot on that piece, and the world is definitely changing here, is what I would say. Like it's so interesting to see this change. And I think so much of the way that we make the change effectively is just visibility. We just have to know what's going on. And many of us are running high scale operations, and that visibility actually becomes really hard. We've introduced all this new complexity and now we don't have the visibility that we need anymore, but we have scale. And so it's like a really hard problem. And so like, that's how we're thinking about how do we solve this, is first, like, just get the visibility. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's go correct the bot flows. Let's go, fix that if we can. If we can't, we need to monitor it on an ongoing basis. We can use QA to do that. That's kind of how we connect the dots.
Love it. I could just have you come to work with me for a week and help me so much. That would be great.
Happy to, anytime.
Amazing. Any other questions before we look at wrapping up and give everybody a couple of minutes back in their day if you don't have any more? But if you do, please feel free to chime in, pop them in chat, come off mute, show us your beautiful faces.
I have a quick question. As I'm thinking about WEM and putting these things together, I'm wondering how can QA insights be used to inform like your workforce management decision? So if you were looking at QA and you saw a trend, say peak times for busyness that then led to errors, or identifying coaching needs. So like looking at it from the total perspective, how can those insights help somebody with their WFM decisions?
Yeah. So great example that you shared, Meg. Like that's maybe a non-obvious example, but it's a really good one, because level one is we could look at types of work and we could understand performance against those types of work. Like how much time do they take to resolve? And that's the performance or the productivity side. And then we could look at the quality and we could say in aggregate, it's this. But then as a next level, what you said is a great example of, yeah, but I wonder how during peak periods quality shifts. And so we can start to look at that and understand maybe it's accurate. Actually, the problem here is that our utilization is too high and we need to bring it down a little bit. We need to give people more time. And then when we do that, we bring utilization down, which on the surface seems like a bad thing because it's cost us more if we bring utilization down. But actually by doing that, we drive quality up. And so that's kind of the two sides of the same coin that I mentioned at the beginning, why like WEM truly does go hand in hand, not just like it's a marketing thing, but it's like, maybe we actually want to lower productivity in order to get higher quality. And so we have to look at both sets of data in order to make that decision, or the inverse, right? maybe we need to increase productivity, we need to maintain quality or whatnot.
Awesome, thank you. Mandy just popped a question in QA. Is there a way to hide some tickets for private groups?
That is a good question. I have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, we'll take that one as a takeaway.
Only one follow-up. We might actually be
one follow-up. I know we can separate them, but I think you have to do a separate workspace, and I don't want to give you the wrong answer. So let us check on that one.
Awesome. Well, the recording will be up on our page. We will send out that answer in a follow-up email to all of the participants who've joined us today. And Lou has popped in a reminder to visit the user groups page, which I highly recommend because you'll be able to see all sorts of upcoming events. Thank you so much, David, for joining us and for your expertise, for answering so many of our questions. We really, really appreciate your time. And thank you to all of our members for coming together again. We'll be hosting another super group for the holidays with our other user group leaders for the small business user group, AI user group, admin user group. So keep an eye on your inbox for that. And if there's nothing else, I'll let you guys get back to your day. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
seeing everyone. Thanks for
David,
coming.
thanks, Lou.